Welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for June 6, 2017. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to again please call the roll.
Trustee Kammer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Deyne?
Yes, here.
Cabrera?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Reinke?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. First item we have this evening under Planning and Zoning on our committee meeting for Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. We have one item on our agenda. It's the Alden Estates of Bartlett. And with that, if you could kind of run us through it, Jim?
Thank you, Trustee Hopkins. This is the second time you've seen Alden Estates of Bartlett. Last time you saw it, it was on its way to the Plan Commission, and now this is coming back from the Plan Commission. Just to orientate everybody, it's on the east side of Route 59. It's behind the Artis Senior Living Project, just south of Apple Valley Drive. They are asking for a preliminary and final PUD plan for Alden Estates on Lot 2 of the subdivision for a 78-bed skilled nursing facility, which would provide both short-term and long-term rehabilitation services. Plan Commission reviewed this petitioner's request and conducted the public hearing on May 11th, 2017. And as you can see, the Commission recommended this beautiful building to be put into the Village of Bartlett. The petitioner, because it's a PUD, has a one-year time frame in which to construct this. They do have to go to the state and get approval for this type of facility, which takes quite a while. And so they are asking for a 2-year time frame to allow the construction of this, the final development plan. And I've got the renderings up. I can answer any questions you have. The petitioner is represented here tonight, and it is before you prior to moving on to the village board for a final vote.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions?
I think the request is reasonable.
When will the front buildings be finished? Artis.
Hopefully, before the winter this year. It's quite a big building, and they got a lot of, interior stuff to start. They are moving on the south end and moving towards the north. So I can give you more of an update.
Is Artis selling that land to them, or are they leasing it?
This is be a land sale. They're here.
So Artis is okay with it, a 1-year extension? They're going to have 2 years of people going through their, because there's only one way in and one way out.
You'll have to ask the petitioner that. I did not inform Artis that, but petitioner might have an answer for that.
Good evening. My name is Steve Friedland. I'm an attorney with Applegate and Thorne Thompson in Chicago. Randy Shulo, who appeared before you before the president of Alden, is unfortunately under the weather, so she's not here, so you're stuck with the lawyer. Sorry about that. As far as Artis is concerned, we don't have a problem with that sort of a delay with them. We obviously wouldn't be, we're not talking about a 2-year construction period. We're talking about a normal construction period. It's just that because of a facility like this requiring financing through the state, it takes time, and the 1-year period, I think, rather than come back to you, we want it to be upfront and suggest that we have the 2-year period. They will certainly, they'd like to proceed as quickly as possible. And just to confirm, it is a land sale. We're buying the land from Artis.
Okay, thank you.
I think one of my only questions is probably for the petitioner. I know you guys do meet the proper parking requirements. Do you guys anticipate any issues with that?
I actually think we greatly exceed your parking requirements. We really planned it based on what we feel is our need versus what you would require under your code, which I think were more than twice as many parking spaces as you have. But I think we're very comfortable with the space count.
Thank you. And my other question would probably be for Mr. Plonzinski. Do you think any signage should be required as far as mandating, because it's only a right in and right out? Do you think that quite a bit of people are going to try to turn left across 59 and to try to get into this facility?
I would hope not. I don't, I mean, obviously it's designed that way, and I would imagine that there is going to be some type of signage up there that says, you know, no left turn, but that's about the best thing. IDOT's not keen on adding a lot of signage in the right-of-way, but it'll be, I mean, you'd have to make a pretty wide sweep to get in there, so hopefully it's, you know, not a great situation to come across 59 into there. So I think
the
it's a
road?
matter of education when the people who are at Alden learn, and the employees learn the flow of traffic and how to get in and out of there. That's what they'll get used to doing.
What's the road just south of there where Living Lord is at?
Congress,
There's going to be a lot of people U-turning right there.
yes. Or coming in, you know, Apple Valley and then coming around and then going right on Congress into the site.
Is there currently a no U-turn sign on Congress?
Not to my knowledge.
Would staff recommend that?
Again, with IDOT allows U-turns.
Yeah.
In state right of
They
way.
promote U-turns.
Yes, they do. As long as, you know, as long as it's safe, that they do allow that and do promote it.
Yeah, but once they turn onto Congress, that's.
Oh, you're talking about a U-turn in
Yeah.
Congress on itself?
Yeah, I think it. Yeah. I think it's something that would have to monitor, and if it becomes an issue on Congress, I think
That's
we
something I think we could look at and make sure that, you know, that the police patrol it if that gets to be a problem. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Any other questions?
Looking at the minutes, I see a reference to Exhibit B, the mail affidavit, but I didn't see the actual mailing affidavit. And I would like to see that, because I'd like to make sure that all the residents in the area have received notice of this. I find it hard to believe that nobody showed up, and I haven't gotten a single email about any of this.
They were required to notice them, so we do have that in our, I have it right here if you want me to, I can show it to you.
Well, not right now, I'm not going
Okay.
to bother, we have the proceedings, but certainly if you could send me an email copy, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Then we will forward this on to the village board for a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have under planning and zoning tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. Next item for committee of the whole meeting this evening under Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman Deyne.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have two items on the agenda this evening. The first one is the 2007 General Obligation Bonds, refunding of that. And I would really appreciate if Todd could address the board with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Deyne. Yeah, tonight, this is both of these items are kind of related. We have the 2007 bonds. These were issued back for the fire district, for the fire station. And they did become available for refunding in December of 2016. And because of the favorable interest rates, now is the time to refund them. Just going through some of an overview. We've been working with Deyne Welcomer. She's here tonight, as well as Tom Gavin. They were the financial advisors for the police station bonds as well. And so this kind of carried over from that, is where we did a lot of preparation and work for that. This carried into that. The total savings due to the lower interest rates would be, they're calculating with the analysis, it's on the second page, roughly $260,000 over the remaining life of the bonds. That equates to a present value savings of $230,000. And basically, you calculate whether it's worth refunding or not by how much money you're saving from the total par value that you're refunding, and that calculates to just over 8% right now. The GFOA, or the Government Finance Officers Association, recommends at least a minimum of 3% savings to make it worth your while. And so we feel that we're clearly above that level right now. Again, the minimum savings, the 3% savings would be about $83,850. So we feel that we're clearly above that. Included is a parameters ordinance, again, similar to the way that the bonds were issued for the police station. The important part of the parameters ordinance is you have to work your way through it. Wait, you get to page 19, and it specifies there that there has to be at least 3% savings, and that includes the cost of issuance and everything. So after all the costs, then there has to be at least the 3%, the 83,000 savings that we would recognize from this issue. So that's the overview. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions, or Deyne is here to get into more specifics if you'd like to have some questions for her.
These were originally, what, 30-year bonds?
20-year bonds.
So are we going to extend them for another 20?
No, it's going to be the same. They're going to end up maturing the same time as they would have. We're using the same length of time. So we're not stretching it out at all, and it's going to be flat debt service.
And there is a savings. Thank you.
How much,
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
what is currently our general fund balance?
Our general fund balance?
Yeah.
It's in the 10 to 11 million range.
So would it be worth it just to pay this off? And then we can save on all sorts of fees that come along with refinancing bonds.
No, that would bring our balance below our fund balance policy. We also, there's reasons for keeping a fund balance policy, cash flow, emergencies, things like that. And I would say, no, we wouldn't want to do that this time.
Would it be worth taking $1 million and putting it towards it? Or is there
Well,
kind of a...
We are working our fund balance down, I think, to about as comfortable as we are with the police station bonds. We've already committed $1.2 million from that 10 million towards the police station. So when I say 10 million, some of that's already accounted for as far as paying down. And I think that discussion was when we talked about how much to issue for the police station. We talked about 20 million bonds. We brought that down. We're using fund balance from our developer deposits, from our municipal building fund, and from the general fund for the police station bonds. I think that we're just going for the savings due to the lower interest rate right now.
You would advise against it? Paying off the 2.9 million with the 11 or so million we have in our general fund?
Yes, I would say we wouldn't want to do that.
Any other questions? Anyone else? If not, I'd like to move this along to the village board for presentation at June 20th, 2017 board meeting for approval. The next item we have is the Municipal Advisory Service Agreement. And give me one moment here, please. Todd will
Yes,
let you go with this, too.
Thank you, Trustee Deyne. Yeah, this goes along with the bond refunding. We've been working with Deyne and with Tom Galvin, with Robert W. Baird, and this is just the agreement, kind of the housekeeping on the agreement that spells out the fees. Along with this, they've helped us with. They're kind of the point man on all the things, so they helped us reduce our fees with our bond paying agent. We switched. We used to be with Wells Fargo. We're switching over to a different paying agent, and that's going to end up saving us about $7,000 over the life of these bonds. They also work with our bond attorneys, the underwriters, so they're just kind of the middleman on the whole bond issue. But I'd be happy to answer any questions in regard to this agreement, or Deyne is here as well.
Just want to make sure I heard you right. We're going to save $7,000?
$7,000 just by switching our paying agent. Yeah, I have there's a list of closing costs when you issue bonds, and they're all wrapped into the bond debt service, so we don't We don't write a check for it, but it's at the closing, it's paid out for it. But you have your financial advisor, that's Deyne, and then you have your bond counsel fees, you have your rating agency fees, and you have your paying agent. They're actually the ones that handle the bonds. And
So it's 7,000 plus the reduction in the interest rate, is what you're saying, the savings.
yes, that's right. That's part of that's all worked into part of our savings.
Just want to make sure I heard you right.
Anyone else? If there are no more questions, I'd like to move this forward along with to the next village board meeting. I believe that would be the next village board meeting, right? June 20th, 17, for approval. Mr. President, that concludes everything on our agenda this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Deyne. Next item on the committee of the whole meeting this evening is under license and ordinance. Chairman Kammerer.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we have the opportunity to, again, talk about the Kickstand Classic, number 2, which we're very excited to have come to town on October 1st. We do have an addition, and I think those, we have someone from Active Transport here. Maybe we can have him comment about this addition to the race of the Davis-Feeney group.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thanks for offering the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Jim Duran, and I've been working for the last 7 years or so with the Davis-Finney Foundation. For those of you who may not know, Davis-Finney is a former bicycle racer. He actually competed back in the 80s. That was his big heyday. Some of you may know his son, who's a big bicycle racer currently, Taylor Finney, married to Connie Carpenter. A lot of you may know her from the Olympics, so very big cycling family. Davis was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and started a foundation which is focused on people with Parkinson's living well today. There's a lot of people that are already researching Parkinson's cures. He was looking for how do you help people who have the disease today to live well with it. And his message is, get out and be active, don't, be a victim. It's resonated with us. We started, as a result of that mission, a bicycle challenge, we called it. We don't like to call it a race because it's really just about getting people to support the cause. But the race was, or the ride, it was a sub-5 ride for Parkinson's. And over the last 7 years, we've held that ride out by Hampshire High School in Hampshire, Illinois, out in the country roads out there. Last year, I had the opportunity to come and participate in the Kickstand Classic. And it was through that experience that I saw an opportunity for us to maybe work better together. And so we approached the Active Transportation Alliance with this idea. Their idea with the Kickstand Classic was to start this progression of kind of like your local 5K run for runners would be. You're not sure if you're really athletic enough to do it, but you might want to try it. You go sign up for a local event, and you get a result. As a way of getting people encouraged to progress. Well, the Active Transportation Alliance wanted to do the same thing with bicycles and say, couldn't I have a local 5K type experience? And that's where the Kickstand Classic came from, was that experience. And so they had a progression, though. They recognized some people are the newbies and some people are the more experienced. And so they had 3 races in their event for the slow, medium, and fast. And we saw the event that we had done for the Davis-Finney Foundation as an extension of that. This event is a 5-hour challenge. The idea is to ride 100 miles in less than 5 hours. That's the gimmick. So the riders that do this are way beyond, well beyond what you would think of as your local 5K runner. They're more like the ultra marathoner. There's very few opportunities to do this kind of an event. But what we were looking for was a way to marry these two because we saw them trying to promote a progression, and then we could come in with our event and fill the same kind of, complete that progression. The good news is that we've been working with them all year, and it looks like we've got all the logistics figured out. So I'm here to hopefully answer any questions that you might have regarding those logistics and any concerns you might have regarding that. Obviously, it's pending approval, but we think that we could satisfy both goals, their goals and our goals, through a combined event here in Bartlett. So that's my little spiel, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Questions for the board?
This is a great event.
Yeah, I can't wait till it kicks off this year.
My only, did I interrupt you?
No, I was just, I was, if nobody was
My
going
only
to.
concern is these guys are really like top-level cyclists, right? These 200 riders. I'm assuming that they haven't signed up yet. It
Correct.
could be from anywhere, right? They're probably coming from all over the Midwest.
We have had, in the history of the event that we've done out by Hampshire, we have had riders come from as far away as, California and New York. However, that's really the exception. Most of them are in the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
Most of them are, just want to do something that's local.
I guess to put it bluntly, are any of them going to run me over? Is it safe to?
Safety is paramount. When you do this kind of an event, we are all about safety because we don't want to have.
They're out there the whole entire time,
It's a
right?
5-hour event, and that's a long time. And so your questions are valid, absolutely. But I will say that the type of riders that do this kind of an event are used to doing this kind of an event. And we set the rules. That's the way I like to put it. And the organizers make it very clear on how this is going to run. And if you violate the rules, we pull you off, pull you off the course. And they don't want to spend all that time and energy preparing for an event just to be pulled out of the course because they did something stupid.
How
And
fast
so,
are they going?
to do a sub-5 ride, you would have to be averaging about 20 miles an hour for 5 hours.
100 miles.
For 100 miles. So they're going fast, but by comparison, just to kind of give you a level of comparison, I participated in the fast race of the Kickstand Classic last year, and we were going faster than that.
Yeah, those guys average 22 or something.
Right. So it's analogous, you could think, to the speeds that they were carrying.
Yeah.
Is there a particular reasoning for the division of the road with the professionals on the inside and the other people on the outside? Is because it's shorter distance, really, and they can go faster?
No, it's really about safety. What was proposed was that we would take and devote the inner lane, especially in the corners, to the sub-5 riders and preserve the outer lanes for the Kickstand Classic events. And the reason for that is because as you're doing the event, we're assuming we're going to kick off the riders doing the 5-hour event first, and because they're going to be going continuously for 5 hours, and then the other events can go and finish in the hour or so that they've been allotted time for through the rest of the morning. And so the last thing we want to do is have groups trying to cross paths. And if you let the kickstand riders come onto the inside lane where the other riders are going continuously, that would create a scenario where you would have to cross paths, and we wanted to avoid that. So we said either the inside or outside lane, but inside makes more sense because you can start them off, get them going, and then everybody else just stays on the outside doing whichever event.
Do you have another follow-up? So my follow-up to that, though, is that it's natural for a tendency for somebody who's a slower rider to try and cut the corner. So what are you going to do at the corners to make sure that there's not?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And the intention is that that's why we want the cones in the corners to be there. In addition to that, especially the sub-5 riders are used to this. Over the last several years, we've done this on open roads, so there was no closed roads, which introduces a whole another level of complexity. The way we've dealt with that is through the use of marshals on course. The marshals' jobs are to help essentially direct traffic, if you will, for the bicyclists, not the cars. Our vision of this event is that each corner would have one or two, most likely two, marshals dedicated specifically to remind them, riders here for the sub-5, riders there for the kickstand. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the professional races where you'll see this, especially in Europe, where they have furniture, they call it, in the road, things to, be barriers for cars and such. Well, if you're a bicycle racer, you can imagine those barriers would not fare well if you ran into them. So they have marshals there waving flags, and that's a reminder to the riders that don't come here. And the intention we would have is something similar, maybe not waving flags, but signs or something where we would direct sub-5 guys this way, Kickstand Classic riders that way around the corner. And to discourage anybody from trying to cut the corner. That would be another risk. If you had someone on the outside lanes trying to cut in on the corner. That's why we want the cones there to remind them you don't do that. Third, we're going to be briefing not only the riders, the sub-5 riders, we can brief the captains, and they're used to that kind of thing. It's the Kickstand Classic riders, we're going to be briefing them before each event and reminding them that this is why these cones are there, this is where you're going to be allowed, you know, don't try to cut in, and try to avoid that crossing scenario.
I have more questions. Should I keep going? My next question, is it a 5-hour event or is it a 100-mile finish?
So the intention of the goal of it is that you finish 100 miles in 5 hours. The way that the nature that we've done in the past is you organize them into teams of 6 to 8 individuals. Each of them are working as part of that team. And we set them off, it depends on how many riders register, but over the course of a half an hour, you send all the teams off 30 seconds to a minute in between. What you'll end up doing by doing that is you'll get them scattered pretty much around the course. But there'll be a significant gap in between the last team went off and the first team coming through. So you'll have every lap takes about 12 minutes. So in that 12 minutes, you might have 6 or 8 minutes of, you know, everybody going by, and then the rest of the time would be a gap. And then as the day goes on, some people will go faster, some people go slower. That might scatter around a little bit, but we're imagining that those gaps will remain through the course of the day. It's not timed strictly in the sense that after 5 hours we say, okay, event's over, everybody's off the course, because we sent them off at different times. But the expectation is that some of these teams come out there and do it in 4.5 hours, some do it in 4, right? So 5 is really kind of the goal. And if you don't do it by the time you hit the 5 hours, you kind of missed it. And so it's like, you can keep pedaling for 100 miles, I suppose, but you really missed the goal. And so a lot of them very quickly will finish at that, especially if it was the loop that we're talking about on the course. When you're out in Hampshire, we were doing one 33-mile loop 3 times. You're out there on the backside of a 33-mile loop, you got to bike back. But in this case, we're not anticipating people are just going to keep going because they want to do it.
Hours or 7 hours, and then the village is required
In our
to
past,
stay for that time.
you have to remember these guys are fast, right? So even if they don't make the goal, they're usually done by 5.5 hours. You know, we're not talking about people out there on course for 7 hours.
But I guess that's my question is, will there be, and there's the follow-up question, is that were there complaints last year about the people who are within the route?
There were a couple.
And I think that it would behoove us to make sure that
we could call an end
to
to it
that
too.
there's an end. That's my thought.
What is the logistics worked out right now? What's the start time of the race right now for the fast people?
We're going to start at the same time, and last year we started at sunrise, whatever it was in
I believe it was
6 o'clock or something?
6:30, I believe.
Yeah,
So they're done by 11 and then
roughly, right.
The whole race was supposed to be.
Sorry, Jeff's saying 6:30, sorry.
be over by 11 or 11:30.
11, I think we're shooting for 11:30 for that 5 hours, and then the roads will be back open at noon. That's what we did last year.
Our goal would be to finish it by noon.
I would, my only concern when I read this is that it was such a great event last year on its own. And I'd hate to do anything to tarnish that with this melding in the second year only, frankly. So I don't know what everybody else feels about that, but that concerns me that last year we sold out. And I think it's a great organization. I think it's a really exciting idea. I just have concerns about changing it.
Mayor, we had the exact same feelings about it, and we worked really hard with the Transportation Alliance. We've raised all the concerns that you've had. We've really worked hard with them to mitigate those concerns because we certainly don't want to screw it up in the second year. And I think that we have come up with a good plan. We've come up with a good way to meld the two to, I was very concerned about people running over. And they've come up with a way logistically to keep that from happening. And I think we can stress the ending time and make sure that our residents aren't inconvenienced for a longer period.
You know, what's really interesting is the fact that we expressed some of the same concerns last year before the Kickstand Classic started, and it turned out to be extremely successful. And, you know, obviously, you know, we had to trust those people that put together that Kickstand Classic, and we cooperated fully with that. And now we have this situation. Again, you've done this before. It's not the first time. And, you know, I think that this would be a great event for the Village of Bartlett, and I think that we should give it at least the opportunity to take a look at it and trust what we're being told.
Have you ever done, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Last year, we had the limit at 600, I think, wasn't it?
Correct.
Active transport has increased it to 1,000 this year, is that right?
They would like to get additional riders and could go up to that capacity.
Does
And
that
it
include the
includes the
200?
Davis-Finney Group in that number,
That does include the
Yes.
Finney Group in that number?
yes.
So really, then we'd only really be going up another 200 on just people that wanted to participate if you're going to limit your Finney Group to 200, right?
Correct. So one of the things that we think by combining these events or holding them together, that we have seen is a lot of people have spouses, for example, the one person may be into the whole 5-hour event, and then their spouse is like, I can't do that, I'm not going to try. But if they have an opportunity on the same day to do like the slow race and try it out, then they both come, and it becomes something that brings people together in that fashion as opposed to finding different events. So we think there will be a number of people like that you may end up seeing an increase overall between the two because both people can come, so to speak. So we anticipate that there will be some of those. It's hard to estimate exactly what that would be, but assuming if you had 200 riders in the Sub-5 event and assuming half of them bring somebody else, and that's another 100 riders for the Kickstand Classic. Does that help?
Yeah, I would hate to see it limited to the point where people that wanted to get involved, and say we had another 400 just casual riders that wanted to get involved, and now we're turning them away again. Because I think we did turn away people last year, didn't we?
I'm not with the Active Transportation Alliance, so I don't know if they sold
I
out.
don't think they turned anybody away.
Didn't have to know at the end.
Okay.
What, are you 100% sure you'll have 200 riders?
At this point in time, the longer we delay, we haven't announced this yet, specifically because we're trying to get, of course, everything approved. And because we haven't announced it, there's a lot of people questioning what's going on. This event normally happens on the Sunday after Labor Day. We're delaying it a few weeks to October 1st this year to work in conjunction with the Active Transportation Alliance. So at this point, the longer we go without announcing it, the more people make other plans, less people would show up. We still think at this point that we could fill between 180 and 200 riders, partly because we've been working closely with Vision Quest Coaching. They are an outfit out of Highland Park and Naperville, and they do cycling coaching. And they use this as one of their end-of-the-season goals for a lot of their clients who sign up and use their services. They like to have a nice outlet like this where this is something you worked for all summer, and could you do it? And they set they group them together in teams that are appropriate. And so they traditionally, bring about 70 to 100 people, just that outfit. And they've already contacted us and said, what's going on? We'd like to participate. And they're obviously eager to make this happen because this gives them a nice outlet for their clients. So we'll probably fill 150 to 175, no problem.
So the Davis Finney riders, do they register with your organization and with Active Transport for our organization, for our ride?
Good question. This year, just to keep things simple, we're planning on doing 2 events in one. Active Transportation would do their registration, and the Sub-5 ride would do its registration. You just happen to be both at the same location. We'll end up sharing the same timing contractor, but they'll time them differently. So they'll have the timing for the Kickstand Classic at the start-finish line. We're not going to have the timing chips until you get onto the course for the Sub-5 riders. Various different reasons for that. Partly to let them know that, hey, when you go, you don't have to get up to speed just yet. You don't start timing until you get on that loop. So that we're sharing some of the costs, we're sharing volunteers, things like that. But we're going to have separate registrations.
And are we sharing in the registration fees the same way with you folks as we are with Active Transport?
The agreement is And that, I was going to add, we have given them our cost estimates for our police, public works, and for the barricades and the other things that we rented, and it's going to be, this agreement is with Active Trans, and it's split 50-50. Active Trans and Davis Finney are partnering ship as a separate agreement. That is not part of ours.
Okay, so essentially, I think we need to sharpen the pencil on that.
Well, we have reduced the costs based on our experience last year just with the barricade rental and the patrol officers and that.
We have more costs now because of the cones and the setup and the,
That's all factored in, right?
That's factored
I
in.
understand it's factored in, but if he's 200 riders at $100 a piece, and Active Transit has 600 riders at $50 a piece, and then we should probably almost, and with additional sponsors, we should almost get out of this without having it cost us anything.
Well, that's not how it's, that's not how it's laid out here. They're still asking for us to share in our end of it. If you want us to approach that aspect with it, we certainly can go
They
back
do.
and ask them.
I think it's something that we're taking 100% of the public risk and 100% of the blowback from the public, and it's our turf, and it's all of our organizational skills with every department we have, and it's still an expense. So I think we could sharpen it a little bit, personally.
I can certainly bring that up with Ron of Active Transportation.
You know, they lost money on the race last year. So I don't know how amenable they will be to that, but we can give it a shot.
Yeah.
You always lose money on a new adventure. He's going to lose money until there's 20,000 of these around the country.
You know, but they do, I mean, I will say, you know, they do bring in, you know, they do the advertising, they do the registrations, they do they bring in their volunteers, they do all the swag, they do all the timing. So, you know, they have some skin in the game, too.
I get it, and I love it. I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great event. I'm two concerns, messing it up from last year because it was such a great event, and number two is let's make sure that this is equal here, that everybody's sharing a little bit of the deal.
Okay.
Are we still having the band and the stuff?
Those are their costs. The
They're gonna
band,
take that, and that's outside whatever we have here because it's not itemized here.
We're not paying for
we
that.
don't pay for any of
beautiful.
that stuff.
Okay.
It's just the items that are listed in here.
Okay.
I have an additional question, and that is that what I recall from last year when you described this race was that the mission of the race was to draw people to our downtown. That's how the Alliance sold us on the idea. And so my question is having this second race going to enhance us succeeding in that mission? And if the goal was to involve our community and get them involved, would we have done that without complicating it even more?
And my knee-jerk to that is I think bike enthusiasts, the ones that are more enthusiastic than I am, will love to come watch those guys. You'll get people down here just to watch them.
But they're not necessarily professionals, is what I'm understanding. They're people who can do a century. I have
You're gonna
done
look
one,
pretty
so
professional. You're gonna see bikes that are,
You're right, they're enthusiasts, they're not professionals. No one here is a professional rider, although some, I'll call them paraprofessionals, guys who compete with the professionals will be there, and they use it as a training ride. I mean, we've had that happen. So I would agree that they're enthusiasts, not professionals, but they're going to play the part.
Trustee Gabrania, what I was trying to say, and maybe I didn't say it correctly, I think that what you'll have from the community is when they hear about these guys that are coming along with this race, even if they don't ride, or if they do ride, they're gonna stick around afterwards to see these guys fly around the last few laps, just because it's cool to watch. You're gonna see guys, and that makes me a little concerned how they're gonna make some of these turns. I'm sure they know the track, right? They're gonna have to, we might even see them come before. They'll probably come bike it before we even open it up, I would guess.
I think we would discourage that, but you also have to remember a lot of these, they're training for this to work as a team and to maneuver as a team. They know how to do it. You have to remember, I keep reminding you, we were on country roads near Hampshire, 2-lane roads, and you have to stay in that one lane. You can't just like sweep all over the road. There are cars and traffic around you, in theory. And so we've got drilled into them, and they understand how to make it work. But yes, it's a valid concern.
Is it drafting legal or drafting illegal race?
Amongst the team, the 5 or 6 or 7, however many are in that team, which we're limiting it to 8-man teams, yes, drafting is legal for those 8 guys. But one of the things that we're going to be putting down as a rule is not to allow supergroups to form. We don't want this to turn into 100 guys.
Peloton that one goes down and so do 20 others. That's certainly.
Again, I'm sorry.
We don't want it to become a Peloton where one goes down and so do 20 others, and then we have a big mess.
Exactly. Now, the good news is, like I said, we've done this a lot. These people that do this type of event are used to riding in a group. They understand it. So in the 7 years we've run it, we've never had a crash, right? And it's not to say it can't happen. It's just they know the risks and they know how to manage the risks.
And this first year would simply be a trial year. We're not locked into this set in stone. So if we have some issues or things don't go great, next year they may not be back, right?
Right. I mean, and one of the things, we're willing to work with this, right? We understand if we have to make some modifications, we understand that. And we've done the same thing out in Hampshire, working with the Kane County Sheriffs, working with the high school and all the people that were involved in those events. We've had to do this before. And so, I mean, we understand. We want this to be a success. We want this to be a positive experience for everybody. We're going to do everything in our power to make that happen.
Any members do you have in the Finney, Davis Finney group? Like you probably have a website that has contributors nationwide, I would guess.
Davis Finney Foundation is a nationwide organization, but they have many rides that they do to do fundraising events, everything from a local charity event ride to 100-mile rides to RAGBRAI across Iowa. They use all sorts of cycling. He's a cyclist, so that's the connection. This was a unique. There's no other event in the United States that we're aware of that does exactly this.
That was the excitement last year. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes it kind of unique. It's a nice progression when you look at what the Active Trans was doing with the 3 races. What do the fast guys do if they've already done that? Oh, here's an outlet.
I don't know how they're going to maintain 20 miles an hour on some of those curves.
You'd be surprised. No, it's.
I know.
You don't actually maintain the 20-mile-an-hour around.
So my point in trying to find out how many followers your group has is that we can cross, recognition for Bartlett and the community. That would be good to cross the information onto their website and tag into that. Okay, I'm sorry, I kind of beat that to death, but.
All right, any other?
Taking a step back, even just a few short years ago, bicycles, and certainly this race, would not have even been considered by anyone in this room.
No.
So it has been a dramatic change in the last, we'll call it 3-4 years. And I think everybody recognizes Kickstand Classic is a wonderful thing for the community, and yes, we don't want to mess it up. At the same time, I'd like to hear more about the coordination between you and Active Transit and the staff, so to figure out if something goes wrong, how we're going to handle it and keep the show on the road. Right? Keep everybody safe and get the roads cleared by noon.
Good point.
We don't want your folks getting hurt. We don't want our folks getting hurt. The financial stuff, no comment. But it was a great event last year, and it brought a lot of people to downtown. And it's part of that spirit of community that we've talked a lot about.
Yep.
And it's innovative, and it's very Bartlett.
I love it.
Would it be possible when the time is up, the time is up?
We could.
So riders are flagged to go in regardless?
What we can do is we never had to do that in the past because that's pretty much what happened. Even naturally, people finish around that mark, and within half an hour, everything's done, right? So we've never enforced something like that, but we could definitely put an end time on it, say if you're not done by this, that's it.
I think that would have to be a necessary thing.
But that would be easily accomplished, especially if we're starting like we did last year, about 6:30. That gives you 5.5 hours to do it, and if you're not done by noon, too bad. We could easily do that.
I'm thinking about the guys that are running in that first wave, which I was probably not even awake yet last year. But some of those guys are the folks that you're talking about, wannabes. They are going to love to see these guys running this race. Those ones that are on the speed track, they're trying to get a good time, and they see these guys flying around there. look out, spin doctors, because you're going to have people buying new bikes.
What we'll do is we'll put together some more information on the cost, the hard end time, the combination of our efforts with active transit and, for lack of a better name, the disaster plan, to get you comfortable, and we'll bring it back to the board for review then.
I think I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we're comfortable. Let's just get it, you guys clean it up however you think is best you can do, and let's get it back here and vote on it and get it done.
Okay, great, we'll move it
Is
to
that good
board.
with everybody?
Full disclosure, Jim Duran is a fraternity brother of Bill's, so don't hold that against him.
Okay.
Why did you bring it up? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the answers. We appreciate it.
And that is all we have under license and ordinance this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Cameron. Final item this evening under Committee of the Whole meeting is under Public Works, Chairman Reinke.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item, the ADA transition plan. Tyler, would you like to fill us in on the brief details of the ADA transition plan, please?
Sure thing, Trustee Reinke, Village Board. I know you're not used to seeing me up here, so hi. So this is pretty much an update to our previous ADA plan. It's with the updates to Title II of the ADA plan, which requires a different set of curb cuts, which they refer to as the truncated domes, which are those bubble-like iron cast moldings that go in the sidewalk at intersections. And there was really no time frame for this. It just needs to be in our plan that we're going to do this and become more equitable and have safer roads for everybody. And so from that, this plan works on that, and it's more of a, I guess I would call it a fluid plan where if a new priority comes in, it can be changed to go with that, which is why we have the MFT funds being used for that. And from there, if there's any money left over, it'll go from subdivision to subdivision until complete.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I looked at the report in detail, and I was very impressed with the thoroughness, even the curb cuts by subdivision.
Yeah.
Just kind of blew my mind. So I really appreciate the staff work on this. And I know you're looking for a motion tonight from the committee, right? Did I read that correctly? You want to approve this now?
We're going to move it forward to the board, and
Okay.
that'll be the resolution that we'll have that night.
Okay. I thought that was a little bit different. Okay, so if there aren't any comments or concerns, we'll move this along to the board. And it sounds like we could probably even put it on the consent agenda on the next village board.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
The first plan, ADA plan that we had was my first project as an intern. And so it's kind of fun to see Tyler
gone full
dusting that
circle.
off and redoing it. I just wanted to point out I did it without GIS. I had to drive out and with a map and look at the curb cut.
You drew,
Now I'm feeling
did you
old.
draw stick figures and everything?
Well, this stuff makes a big difference in people's lives if you're handicapped.
Yes,
If you
absolutely.
have a stroller or wheelchair.
Stroller
or
for
anything.
sure.
Yeah. Mr. President, that's all we have for public.
Thank you, Chairman Reinke. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our Committee of the Whole meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Cameron, seconded by Trustee Deyne. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kimmer,
Yes.
Carbonaro,
Yes.
Deyne,
Yes.
Cabrera,
Yes.
Hopkins. Yes. Reinke.
Yes.
We are adjourned.